The things that we have in our heart that we think are impossible are often just milestones waiting to get accomplished if you can push those limits. Listen, everything was impossible until someone did it, so you can either hang around people that tell you it can be done or hang around people that inspire possibilities. Welcome to the Path to Unlimited, weekly interviews with entrepreneurs, athletes, artists, those that inspire possibilities. And I'm your host, Julian Marion. All right, so this is episode 1 with the one and only John Lee Dumas. John is the founder and owner of EO Fire, or Entrepreneur on Fire. And this is a Vault episode. John talks about the personal limitation he had and limitations that others are trying to impose on him for starting a daily podcast, and also how he conquered them. Enjoy. John Lee Dumas, the founder of and host of Entrepreneur on Fire, top-ranked podcast, best of iTunes 2013, interviewing some of the brightest minds in entrepreneurship. So, John, what's going on today?
Not too much, Julian. I'm fired up to be chatting with you today. And, thank you for letting me have a conversation, not only with you, but with your listeners. So welcome, listeners. I am prepared to ignite.
Yes. All right. So, John, you've been listening to so many different quotes, right? So many different quotes. So what is your go-to quote? What is John Lee Dumas' go-to quote?
It's by an incredible entrepreneur by the name of Albert Einstein. And Julian, his quote that I have absolutely built the entire foundation of entrepreneur off of is, try not to become a person of success, but rather become a person of value. Value is the key word in this community that we're in today, Julian. It is the most impactful and important commodity that you can share with people. Be of value.
Awesome. Be of value. That is such a good one. Actually, not one that we've heard of a lot, right?
No, not at all. It's kind of an underutilized quote for sure from an incredibly inspiring entrepreneur.
Definitely. So, John, now you've kind of just stepped up to a different level as far as your business, podcasting, the different communities that you have. So what gets you up in the morning now?
The tagline specifically of the tagline, Julian, of Entrepreneur on Fire specifically is inspiring millions. That's my goal. That has always been the goal of Entrepreneur on Fire. But to actually see that coming to fruition, Julian, to have been voted best of iTunes in 2013, to have accumulated over 8 million downloads since we launched, to have crossed 800,000 downloads just last month, that has been an incredibly inspiring realization of mine that we truly are on that path, that journey towards inspiring millions to do their thing. So that gets me up in the morning. Every single morning, I'm fired up to engage with just the amazing community that I've built, that I lovingly refer to as Fire Nation. And Julian, I'm just enjoying the ride, my friend.
Awesome. And John, I'm not going to lie. I was born in the Congo, moved to Belgium, then United States. And I can tell you that I have friends in the Congo and Belgium that knows who you are. So you are indeed inspiring millions.
I love it, Julian. You just made my Saturday.
Awesome. So, John, are you an early bird or a night owl, and why?
I am totally an early bird. I could not agree more with Benjamin Franklin's quotes, early to bed, early to rise makes you healthy, wealthy, and wise. And the reality is, Julian, you are what you decide you want to be. If you say that you're a night owl, that's true because you say it is. And if you say that you can never become an early bird, that's also true because you have convinced yourself and you say that that's the case. The reality is you can choose to be whatever you want to be. And if you want to be a night owl, go for it. There are some people that crush it. But the reality is, for me, I know the importance of the circadian rhythm, I think it's called. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that exactly correctly, but basically, going to bed soon after the sun sets, waking up with or right before the sun, that natural progression that's just been ingrained as us in humans throughout thousands and thousands of years, I follow. Oh, I think it's called circadian, so the circadian rhythm. Because I just read an amazing book by Sean Stevenson that says 21 ways to sleep smarter. And it's just so powerful, Julian. And I apply those 21 principles in my life. It's been a very big game changer. And I love the phrase carpe diem, seize the day. And for me, that starts at 5:20 a.m., 5 days a week. And then on Saturdays and Sundays, I'm still up around 7:30. Carpe diem.
Awesome. That reminds me of one of the guests we had, Hal Elrod, which, wakes up, a little bit early with his early morning, the miracle morning routine, which is very, very inspiring. As far as
Hal has been a great past guest of Entrepreneur on Fire. I really loved his message.
He is amazing. So, John, what do you tell yourself daily? Like, affirmations or declaration, or like Tony Robbins says, incantations. Do you have any of those that you tell yourself daily?
I haven't gotten to that point yet. Meditation is always something that I've said, when the time is right, when I feel drawn towards it, I will definitely embrace meditation. Maybe that'll be next month, maybe that'll be next year, maybe that'll be never. I also am a big believer in positive thinking. Mm-hmm. And if incantations ever make sense for me at any point down the road, I'm not going to shy away from them. But to be honest, I haven't felt drawn to them, so I don't.
Awesome. So let's talk about, I believe that just in life in general, there's two things that kind of stop you, right? The first one is personal limitation. So that means limits that you put on yourself, right? And then the other one is other people's limitations on you, right? And that goes from, kids to adults to young businesses, right? Like, the saying, most businesses don't make a profit in the first 2 years or first 3 years, right? And most new businesses take that as like gospel. Okay, well, I'm not going to make a profit in my first 2 years, right? I understand that. Versus, no, nobody said that you couldn't. Those are just statistics. But that doesn't mean that you can just within 6 months be profitable, right? So I just want to, talk to you about limitations. Like, what do you think about limitations in general?
So I think limitations so often are self-imposed, Julian. Just like you were mentioning that so many people say something and because they say it, it becomes true in their world. Just like we kind of talked about at the very beginning. If you say you're a night owl, then you are. And you know what? That's okay. There's nothing wrong with it. But if you say you're not an early bird, then you're not. But if you do want to become an early bird and you keep saying you're not an early bird, then you never will be one. So just change your language, change your focus, change your direction, and that will in and of itself change itself. So, limiting beliefs are out there. They're going to be really just imbued within all of us. But it's those people, Julian, that can surround themselves by other inspiring and successful entrepreneurs that can read the right books, that listen to the right podcasts and audiobooks, that surround themselves by people who don't have limiting beliefs. That's where you'll find your breakthroughs.
Awesome. So like I told you before, I'm a daily listener of, Entrepreneur on Fire, an evangelist. I love it. I share with everybody that I know, saying that this is the podcast you should listen to. So I know you are a pro at really going and taking us there to the story, right? So I just want you to kind of share with us a time where you limited yourself, right? If that ever happened, you knew that, this was me, John. This is my fault. I didn't do this because I put, that limit on me. And what did you do to conquer it?
So, Julian, I love stories. I have a great story I'm going to share with you and your audience right now. But right before I do, I just want to take a quick second just to thank you personally, one-on-one, my man, for listening to Entrepreneur on Fire, for being an evangelist. That means so much to hear you say those words, because that is exactly why Entrepreneur on Fire has grown to the size and the breadth and the influence that it has, is because of people like yourself, Julian. And I honestly, genuinely appreciate that. So thank you.
Thank you, John.
So my story specifically goes back to August 15th, 2012, the day I was supposed to launch Entrepreneur on Fire, Julian. I had a mentor for the entire 2 months from really idea to that point, August 15th, Jamie Tardy, who was guiding me incredibly along the way. She gave me all the right ideas, all the right connections, all the right focus, and I was ready to launch, Julian. August 15th came. I had 40 interviews recorded. I had my website ready, my email opt-in giveaway. Everything was ready to go, except for one problem, Julian. I wasn't ready to go. I allowed limiting beliefs to hold me back. I woke up August 15th, I kid you not, paralyzed with fear. I said, I can't launch today. I could potentially fail with Entrepreneur on Fire. But if I don't launch, then I'll never be able to be considered a failure, because it will be an unproven concept. I won't ever be able to succeed, but I won't be able to be called a failure either. And I was terrified with the possibility of Entrepreneur on Fire failing. With all this time, energy, effort, and money that I had put into this project, I was scared witless of being looked at as a failure by launching it. So I came up, Julian, with all of these limiting beliefs, all of these BS excuses that I convinced myself of, that I convinced my mentor of, that I convinced my mastermind of. And I said, hey, I can't launch right now, but just give me 15 days. I need to do a couple more things and then I'll be ready. Well, 15 days came and went, same exact problem. I delayed another 15 days. September 15th now comes. I do the same exact thing. Luckily, during that third delay, Jamie Tardy came to me and the date was September 22nd. And she said, if you don't launch your podcast today, September 22nd, I'm going to fire you as a mentee. And Julian, the only thing that scared me more than launching was losing my mentor, which is just kind of shows you the importance of having a mentor. Mm-hmm. So I launched. In September 22nd, Entrepreneur on Fire went live. And about a month later, Julian, I was asked to speak on stage at the biggest conference for podcasting in the world, New Media Expo. And had I not launched when I launched, if I had delayed even more, that never would have happened. And that just opportunity set the stage for so many following successes. It's almost scary. And so that limiting belief, Julian, I almost sabotaged my own success before I ever even started.
That is awesome, because that's absolutely true, right? Being a daily podcast, as soon as you start, you have to stay on top of it. It can't be no slacking happening, right? So that is so true. I can definitely relate. So what kind of helped you break through? Is it Jamie Tardy kind of lighting that fire under you, or is it something else that kind of helped you break through that?
So I did a lot of things right, Julian, but I also did do. Well, let me rephrase that. I did a lot of things wrong, Julian, but I did do a couple things right. One of the things that I did do right was hire a mentor. Another thing that I did do right was get into a mastermind, because that support group to actually request feedback and to get criticism and to just be involved with other people who are in different places in their journey, but all looking to accomplish the same goals was absolutely critical. And that was me. And that's exactly why I launched Fire Nation Elite, which is now in its second year of existence. It's a membership mastermind that we run for people, Julian, who are looking to be a part of an incredibly powerful, tight-knit family that we lovingly refer to as Fire Nation Elite Nation. And it's just a great community of entrepreneurs. And we support each other every single day, have tasks, have challenges, have deadlines, and we're there for each other. And that is a critical part in every entrepreneur's journey.
I think I totally agree with you. I started my first kind of business at 26 years old. And one of the big things that kind of helped me move forward is kind of having that accountability around me. People with different backgrounds, but all just, being able to be there and support each other. And that's why I think a lot of the mastermind groups started to happen on Facebook, right? Facebook groups and closed groups to kind of just like help each other and grow. So I totally agree with you. I think it's one of the most underutilized, concept out there. So now let's talk about others' limitations. So that means limitations that people are trying to put on you. Right, and I'm pretty sure that you had quite a few, right? Whenever you came with that crazy idea of hey guys, I'm gonna do a daily podcast interviewing some of the top minds. So just take us there again. The first time you shared that with someone, say, hey, I'm gonna do this, and kind of what happened at that point.
Yeah, so to be honest with you, the first person I shared this idea with was Kate. And, at the time I was in commercial real estate. She was working as an account executive for an advertising company in Portland, Maine. And, we were both, doing our thing, going to work every day, coming back, hanging out. And I said, Kate, I have this idea. This is what I want to do. And Kate had kind of known that I was into listening to these different shows, but she didn't quite know what that meant. So she was, one of her first questions was, well, what exactly is a podcast? I don't really even know what you're really talking about right now. So I sat down and I explained it to her and I said, this is what I see doing. And she's like, listen, I don't quite get it, but I see your passion. I trust your business instincts, because I've seen them in other ventures before. If this is something that you want to do, like, I am completely in support of it. I think you should go for it, make it happen. And so, my first experience was great because, the person that was most important in my life and I was spending the most time with was supportive of me. My family was a little bit different because they were really happy that I had this secure job in commercial real estate with partnership track. And like, they thought that was a great career path that I was on, and they, were, nervous for me for taking a leap and kind of giving that all away, and what would that turn out to. So, the second experience, and that was with the family, was a little bit, negative. But then when I did hire a mentor and I continued forward and I joined the podcast mastermind that I joined, I was getting a lot of positive feedback, once again, where people were like, that is, interviewing entrepreneurs, sharing their journey. Like, we love your passion, John. We think you could turn that into a really cool show. But, seriously, 7 days a week, that's a bad idea. You should really be doing a weekly show at most, because you don't want to burn out. You want to burn your listeners out. Like, just kind of tone it back a little bit. And, so that was some kind of semi-positive, semi-negative feedback that I was getting. But the reality was, Julian, is that I knew deep down what I wanted to create. I saw the vision, and I knew that my mentor, despite, being, having some misgivings about me doing a daily show, and I knew my mastermind, despite having the same thing, would be incredibly valuable to me in so many parts of my journey, which they absolutely were. And I knew that if I put my blinders on with this specifically, that this would be a powerful thing for me to do, this blue ocean strategy of kind of venturing where no man or woman has gone before. A 7-day-a-week podcast interviewing entrepreneurs every single day of the week. Quite an undertaking. So I was willing to be a powerful part of the mentee relationship and of the mastermind relationship, and then also drive forward with what I knew deep down was what I was meant to create, and that was Entrepreneur on Fire.
That is awesome, and I thank you for doing that, because the reality is we consume more content now than I think we have ever consumed, right? And I'm just looking at, I have 2 little kids, and I'm just looking at them and how much content they're consuming and how fast, right? That a daily podcast, it's kind of like, what people need, just, something that is there to continuously motivate them. I think Grant Cardone, had a poll on LinkedIn, kind of just like seeing what do salespeople need the most. Is it training? Is it, right? Is it like product knowledge? And the number one thing, John, was motivation.
Motivation, baby. And that's, why we love what we're doing with Fire Nation Elite. We just have this incredible membership mastermind of people that are coming together every single day. They've invested in themselves, Julian, and that means a lot. These are people that are taking money out of their wallets every single month to be part of this mastermind that my team has put together. And because of that, every single person within is committed to engaging and to getting a ton out of this relationship.
Awesome. So I'm gonna talk about one of your favorite topic, fear, right? So just give us the time where you are fearful, right? You already gave us a time whenever you didn't really launch, right, and you kind of had to delay that. So give us another time, maybe during your time, whenever you were was it with the Army, right? Whenever you were with the Army, give us one of those times when you were fearful, but you did it anyway. You still moved, and what happened?
I want to give you another time in my entrepreneurial journey that's definitely evoked some fear and some desperation. And to give a quick background, I launched Entrepreneur on Fire on September 22nd, and the next 8 weeks were amazing, Julian. I was, I kind of got in as a first mover advantage. There weren't a ton of other podcasts that had interviewed entrepreneurs, so they were interviewing entrepreneurs at that time, and there was definitely none that were doing it daily. Mm-hmm. So I immediately started getting some great download numbers, a lot of listens. I was immediately ranked incredibly high in iTunes New and Noteworthy. And what New and Noteworthy is it's this space at the very top of iTunes. When you first log in, the first 2 rows are dedicated to new podcasts that are 8 weeks and younger. And so those 8 weeks were amazing for me. I was getting so many people finding out about Entrepreneur on Fire from that perfectly placed advertising spot that iTunes just gave to me for being a new and noteworthy podcast. And I was getting thousands of downloads a day, 2,500, 3,000 downloads every single day, day after day. And then day 57 came. and I was taken off of New and Noteworthy because my 8 weeks were over. I was no longer considered a new podcast, and my numbers plummeted. I was no longer seen anywhere on the New and Noteworthy, obviously, but neither was I on any of the other charts. There's a What's Hot chart, nowhere to be found. The top 200 chart, nowhere to be found. And I was like, is my podcast, has it just disappeared? Is this the beginning of the end? My download numbers dropped by 70%. I didn't even know how people were ever going to find my podcast again. And so I was fearful. I let fear take over, and I truly started thinking to myself, this might be the beginning of the end. Maybe this is why nobody does a 7-day-a-week podcast, because it's consuming so much of my time, energy, and effort. And here I am now with not much to show for it after my little moment in the sun during the New and Noteworthy period. But the reality was, Julian, I reached out to my mastermind, and they assured me this just happens. Now build a new base, build a new platform at this new level, and slowly and steadily grow your audience. And from that point forward, Julian, I accepted that, which again points to the power of a mastermind. And every day since then, Entrepreneur on Fire has been slowly and steadily growing to where, we went from 3,000 downloads a day down to 600 or 700 downloads a day, but built a new foundation at that level. And now, fast forward 22 months later, we've generated as high as 45,000 downloads in one day.
Wow. And
that just shows you the slow and steady growth that we've had because of one word, Julian: perseverance.
I'm fired up. I'm fired up. I'm fired up. Oh, man, this is so great. And that's why I love your show so much, right? Because, being an entrepreneur and, and a dad and all that, you kind of get those times, right, when fear comes in, right? Whenever you're asking yourself, well, did I make the right step here? or did I just mess up? So that's why I think your podcast is one of the best out there. So, John, let's talk about just action plan, right? Like, what would you tell someone that is stuck right now, right? Because they're limiting themselves, or they accepted, other people, limitation. Like, what would you tell them?
So I say, listen, limiting beliefs really come in the form of the imposter syndrome. And the imposter syndrome is that voice inside your head that's saying, who am I, Julian Marion, to be producing a podcast? Who's going to want to come on my show? Who's going to want to listen to my words? Who am I to actually do something like that? And the reality is, Julian, I've experienced that. Pat Flynn's experienced that. President Obama experiences that every single morning when he wakes up. The imposter syndrome lives within us all. These limiting beliefs live within us all. The people who are successful, Julian, are the ones that are able to shift their mindset from listening to those voices to just accepting them, that they're going to be there. That's part of what it means to be a human being, and then rising above it, embracing and rising above. I've been able to embrace and rise above, Julian. I still get the imposter syndrome every single time I hit the record button, every single time I step on stage to give a presentation, every single time I'm being featured in Forbes and Time and Inc. magazine. I'm like, who am I to be getting all these accolades? That voice is never going to go away. So if you're listening and you have those voices, congratulations, you're a human being. Now accept it, embrace it, and rise above it.
Awesome. But what would you tell someone to say, but John, I have like real limitation, John. You don't understand. I have kid. I already work until 6 p.m. and then I get home, right? Fill in the blank.
I'd say excuses are for amateurs. Be a professional and call me when you are.
Nice. I love that. I love it. So, John, with all the different advices that you've received, right, from all the different entrepreneurs, you've interviewed, what is the one that, kind of just stuck with you?
Wow, that's the thing about interviewing so many successful and inspiring entrepreneurs. You definitely see these themes that develop over and over again. And the one theme that I really love talking about that all of your listeners need to realize first, all the listeners that are saying those words that you just said about having a job till 6 p.m. and I have kids and I have bills and blah, blah, blah. Well, the reality is those people haven't done one thing. They haven't they haven't mastered the internal game. They have not decided for themselves that, you know what? internally, I am going to become a positive thinker. Instead of making excuses, I'm going to make reasons why I can succeed, not excuses as to why I cannot. And once you master the inner game, which every single one of my guests has been able to do, then you start mastering the outer game. So if you're listening right now and you're thinking of excuses, even as I'm talking, as to why you can't master the inner game, well, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Your excuses are amateurish, and break out of it, look inside, take 100% responsibility for your life, because nobody made the millions of choices that you made to get to exactly where you are right now to be listening to my words. Become a pro, master the internal game, and then drive forward.
Nice. So what do you think is the one thing that you believe is responsible for you breaking that daily podcast barrier?
What do you mean by that?
So, like, for example, the guy that ran a mile under 4 minutes, right? Before him, everybody was saying it's impossible. You can't do it, right? Scientists have shown that the human body cannot run that fast, right? But as soon as he broke that limitations, right? Now, I think after him, 40,000+ people did it. Actually, somebody did it a month after he did. So for you, you broke that barrier of, hey, it's possible to do a daily podcast. Look, John did it. Right? So what is that one thing, that one habit maybe, that is responsible for that for you?
No, I think that's a great analogy, actually. The 4-minute mile, and like 17 people, like within a year, shockingly ran a 4-minute mile after this guy broke it. Where before everybody had the limiting belief, hey, the human body just can't do it. It just can't do it. Just like Columbus said, hey, you can't sail west because you'll just drop off the earth. I mean, obviously the earth is flat and you're going to drop off the end of it if you keep sailing west. Like, why would you want to be an idiot? So, all these limiting beliefs will always be out there. There'll be people that are laughing at us, Julian, 50, 100 years from now for having some certain beliefs that we have that are just completely limiting and false as well. Who knows what that might be, actual like kind of like Spock in Star Trek, like transportation, like who knows, what that could be. But, the reality is that limiting beliefs are within us all, and they are always going to be there. And it's the person that really accepts the fact that, limiting beliefs are always going to be that voice inside your head and goes to strive above that are going to be the ones that really succeed. And again, I kind of went on a little tangent there. What was your specific question?
What was that for you, right? What is that one habit, for example, that
right,
that
yeah,
you use
I totally
that helps
remember
you kind of move?
So, and what it was Parkinson's law, which is tasks will expand to the time that you allot them. Mm-hmm. I realized if I only allotted 1 day a week, 8 hours to do 8 interviews, and shockingly, because of Parkinson's law, where tasks will expand to the time that you allot them, I would get stuff done in that 8 hours in that 1 day. And just like today, Julian, I allot 25 minutes per interview to get 8 interviews done on other people's shows, which, by the way, we're going to have to say goodbye in about 30 seconds because of that very reason. So set the Parkinson's law to work for your for what's best for you. Tasks will expand to the time that you allot them, so only allot a certain amount of time for tasks and get stuff done.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, John, for taking the time to speak with us. Just give us the best way that we can, that audience can kind of get a hold of you.
We do a free live podcast workshop every single week where there's a ton of information for anybody that thinks that podcasting might be for them. Go to podcastersparadise.com and check us out. Claim your spot for the next free live webinar that we do every week. And eofire.com, Julian, is where all the magic happens.
Awesome. Well, Mr. John Lee Dumas, thank you, sir, and you have a great day.
You too, Julian. Bye.
I hope you've enjoyed episode 1 with John Lee Dumas from Entrepreneur on Fire. John is obviously crushing it. John has a lot of cool stuff happening right now. He right now has his Freedom Journal, which is accomplish your goal in 100 days. This is a new venture that he's doing. So you go and snatch that out, especially for starting 2016 to really going and accomplishing your goals. So again, I hope you've enjoyed episode 1 with John Lee Dumas. And if you did, please subscribe below and leave us a review. And also check us out on our website for all the show notes page, which is pretty much the notes of the interview, where I pretty much give you the link of his website and all the other resources that he talked about. And that is tptunlimited.com, tptunlimited.com. And on Facebook, the path to unlimited. All right, guys, love you. Talk to you soon. Bye.